Welcome into the latest episode of the Five on the Floor podcast on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure to check out our free website. That's right, free, no paywall, not like the other guys. You can go to 5reasonsports.com, 5 Reasons Sports. Make sure to spell out the 5. There you will get all of our latest Miami Heat content in addition to the Dolphins, Marlins, Hurricanes, Panthers, and more. We've got a new column up from Greg Sylvander, his Guts Check column. Also check out Launching Pad from Nikias Duncan, and I'll be debuting the season ticket column next Monday on my way back from New York. All right, before we get to today's episode, I want to tell you about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that's BetDSI. That's right, we've got the Super Bowl coming up here in Miami. 5 Reasons Sports, by the way, will be fully credentialed to that. We've got 3 credentials, including myself, so we'll be giving you full coverage of the Super Bowl week and the game. So check that out. But also check out betdsi.com to bet on everything. Of course, you can bet more than just the NFL. You can bet the NBA, MLB, NHL, college football. We've got obviously the big championship game coming up. So make sure you jump on there and get the special promotion. Betting's a lot easier when you're given free opportunities, and that's what you get if you use the code 5101. That's spelled out FIVE 101. Had a lot of questions about this. Do you get your money back? All the rest of this. Yes, you get your money. If you bet and you win, you get your money. So go to betdsi.com. Use the promo code 5101. And now, today's episode.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast from Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, a.k.a. Alf954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back here. We got the full crew tonight for the first time in a long time. I'm here with Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. Also follow Alphonse Sidney at Alf954. The Miami Heat just went into Indiana and destroyed the Pacers. Really impressive win. I understand they don't have their starting backcourt. No Brogdon again, and also no Oladipo. There were some questions about whether Sabonis would play. He played. He didn't play well. But the Heat now, guys, and I'll start with Alf on this. The Heat now –
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Sabonis didn't play well?
He played well enough. He played well enough.
He shot 10 of 13.
Okay, he played well, but he didn't dominate Bam or anything like that. He played pretty well. All right, so yes, that's right. It picked up as the game went on, but I still think Bam outplayed him, which we're going to touch on. But wins in Indiana, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Toronto. That's 4 of the other 5 best teams in the Eastern Conference. Everybody but the Boston Celtics. Miami lost up there earlier, second night of a back-to-back, but they'll get another opportunity in Boston later in the season. Alf, the significance of what the Heat have done on the road. I know people have complained about them on the road, but they're now a game over 500, which is not awful. The significance of what they've done on the road against the better teams in the league.
Record-wise, it's their mediocre road team, which actually, being 500 on the road isn't exactly mediocre, but, they're a run-of-the-mill road team. But what's important is they've had these big signature wins on the road in tough places to play. They were talking about how the Heat have lost, I think it was 13 of the last 14 in Indiana before tonight. So it's just a tough place for them to play historically. And just this year, no matter what people want to say about Brogdon and Oladipo, the Pacers are still, 23-14? They're not a bad team. So to go in there and completely dominate like that, where you can rest your 2 best players the entire fourth quarter, is pretty important. And just overall on the season, what they've shown with every time there's been a really, really big challenge, they've stepped up to the plate. Now, some of these second nights, games on the second night of a back-to-back on the road, some of that stuff is just, you really can't, what are you going to do, right? But if they've had rest and they've had a challenge on the road, they've stepped up in a lot of these games. And it's just, from the last 4 years of Heat basketball and PTSD of them not stepping up in big games, losing relatively easy games, it's just really, really nice to see.
Yeah, so that's my thing here is that we can talk about the loss in Minnesota. We can talk about the loss in Memphis, the loss in Washington. You certainly don't want those losses. But it seems like the Heat get up for the better teams. There was the one game against Philadelphia where they got completely outplayed from the beginning. But, Alex, what I see, like a game tonight, what Bam said after the game to Jason Jackson, he said, our coach called us. We wanted to prove Coach wrong. We're not a mediocre road team. Eric Spoelstra doesn't say that kind of stuff publicly unless he wants it to get under his team's skin. And I'm going to disagree a little bit with both Eric and Alf on this. I don't think being 500 on the road makes you a mediocre road team. It makes you an above average road team in the NBA. Actually, like most teams are below average on the road. The Heat were 9-9. They had some pretty good wins. The significance of this for you?
I mean, I think the significance of this game, the message throughout was how nice it feels, right, to have this luxury of options again. I just think this team looks really nice together when they're healthy, right? Now that you got Derrick Jones Jr. kind of hitting his stride. Justise hasn't hit his stride yet, obviously, first game back. But having him out there doing stuff on defense, even without the offensive impact that he's brought in the past, was nice. You know, you've seen the development and the evolution of Hero and Robinson to where they are now as confident shooters. And now, finally, you're seeing Bam really realize his powers. Game by game, he's been adding stuff, getting more confident. But tonight, he had 3 different and ones. He's, throwing out these passes that require a lot of confidence. He's doing a lot of things out there that it's obvious that he's growing and growing and growing. And I'm just glad that he's finally growing into that potential that we all saw of him.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole episode on him. So I don't want to focus too much on him tonight, even though he was terrific. Let's go through 5 things. The first thing I want to touch on, because everybody was kind of waiting for this, and Alex mentioned it, they finally had a healthy team, really for the first time all season, because you look at the beginning of the year, it's not just been health, it's been the suspensions. So you look, and then obviously Jimmy, the birth of his child too. So that they weren't together for the first 3 games. Then Jimmy came back. Then Justise eventually went out. Dragic went out. No JJ, no Dion at various times. So this was the first time he had the full complement of players. Let's focus first on Justise Winslow, though, because everybody was waiting for this. He was back a little sooner than I expected. What I have heard, just to give you a little behind the scenes on this, is that he had sought another opinion that was more discouraging, I guess, about his progress. But I guess he and the team, and I'll do more reporting on this when I'm up in New York, but he and the team sort of came to a meeting of the minds on this and decided that he was okay to go. He didn't play a ton tonight. He didn't start. We didn't expect him to start. What did you think of his minutes, Alex?
Like I said earlier, it was good to see him out there on the defensive end. I think Alf pointed it out that he was making it very hard for Doug McDermott to even get the ball. He kept denying him, and Doug McDermott, they're obviously running him in a similar role to the Heat run Duncan Robinson. Just seeing that tangible defensive impact that he brings is nice, especially because over the past few weeks, their defense have been declining. So I'm just happy to see him out there. I've always wanted him to do good, and I'm happy that he's going to be back in that bench lineup, which might help other guys as well.
Well, yeah, I saw the same things, right? You saw Justise on defense. You saw a lot of what we've seen all season when Justise is out there and able to play, just denying guys the ball, just being in the right place, right time. There was a point they put him on T.J. Warren, and T.J. Warren was just not heard of for about 2-3 minutes. They just couldn't get him the ball. So that side of the ball, he was awesome. Offensively, it's not like he looked lost. It just looked like he just didn't have a place. Yeah, like it's. Mm-hmm. They've developed so many different ball handlers: Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. So many different guys are handling the ball for them that role for him is just not there right now. So he's trying to figure out where he needs to be, and that really doesn't worry me because we've seen this happen with him in the past, and eventually he figures it out. What did worry me a little bit is like beginning of the fourth quarter, end of the third quarter, there were a couple of those plays getting back on defense on a run out and some of those hustle plays where it just looked like he just couldn't even find the energy or the legs. And I think that's just going to take time. But listen, Justise was Justise tonight. He made an impact on the defensive end. He had some good rebounds. And just like Alex was saying, what the best thing about tonight was just seeing that the options are back, right? You need a defensive stop. You need a defensive stand. You bring in Justise. Some guys going off, you can bring in Justise. We saw the other night, if you need James Johnson for 17 minutes, you can get James Johnson for 17 minutes. Goran Dragic is out there. And then you had another blowout where finally Jimmy and Bam got to rest. I think all of that in the bigger picture is just you see how scary this team really is when they have, like you said, the full complement of all their abilities.
Yeah, and that's considering that they didn't play any of the 2017 guys tonight. JJ and Kelly did not get a single minute.
Yep, and so I said they looked versatile, deep, and dangerous, and I think that's where they are. Also, the other thing to consider is we're 1 month exactly from the trade deadline, And so now they have a month, if nobody gets hurt, which never happens with them, but if nobody gets hurt, to really evaluate where they are.
That's something that I've kind of been a little bit worried about with the Justice thing, right? Because I didn't want him to keep coming back later and later, and then you're going to have an even shorter time window to evaluate this team, right? And to decide what you're going to do with this team roster-wise. And I think I'm glad that he's back for that reason, right? Like, to have as long of a sample as you can with this team healthy.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think, again, some of what Alf's mentioning, it looks like for now it's going to be hard for him to find a place. I think there'll be certain games where he will, but that sequence you're talking about, like in the fourth quarter, the more worrisome sequence to me were when Indiana started. I mean, they weren't making a run, but they were kind of getting their way back into the 20s instead of the 30s. But there was a couple sequences where, Justice and Goran and Tyler are all kind of hanging out in the same place on offense, And it's sort of like Dragic and Tyler have kind of developed a game together, like you said, and Justice isn't part of that game, and Justice really isn't part of the game with Jimmy yet. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Spoelstra figures out how to sort of deploy Justice's defense without it getting in the way too much on offense. It's not that Justice doesn't have a skill set on offense. He does, but I don't know that they've needed that much. I mean, sometimes, but they needed it more when Goran was out. Now that Goran's back, they don't need it quite as much. Let's get to number 2 here. Jimmy, we have some T-shirts on our website. You can hate us now. And Jimmy Butler came with that attitude tonight with TJ Warren. That was a little old Heat stuff. That reminded me a little of Dwayne kind of, giving the smile to Lance Stevenson or some of the other things we've seen with Udonis. Let's evaluate Jimmy's game, though, tonight. We've focused so much on his shooting. He didn't shoot the ball a ton from the perimeter tonight, but he was highly efficient. Do you think watching him tonight, maybe last couple of games, that he's gotten his legs back, Alf?
Yeah, it looks like it. I think ever since Goran came back, you've seen that he's had the help has, it's kind of like reinforcements have arrived, right? And he started to look a little bit better, but he still wasn't finishing. He still wasn't hitting his jump shots. Now it felt like tonight he didn't feel – it felt back to at the beginning of the season where he never felt like he had to force anything. Like he started with 4 assists before he even took a shot. And I think it's because he feels confident that there are guys behind him. There's another wave of talent coming that he doesn't have to force the issue right from the beginning. And I think that's what we saw some of the misses, some of the bad shots is where he just felt like he had to force the issue because there wasn't, there was no second wave coming, right? It was going to be 8 guys, and if those 8 guys didn't get it done, they were going to get blown out in Washington. That it was going to be that kind of game. So I think as you see the team get healthy, you're going to start seeing that Jimmy Butler that we saw at the beginning of the season, where he works his way slowly into the game. And tonight, I mean, what did he finish with? 17, 6 assists.
5 or 6,
and he didn't play the fourth quarter. I mean, this could have been another 24, 8, and 7 game for him, but he didn't have to play the fourth. So I do think he's getting his legs under him. And the more of these fourth quarters he misses, the more of these games where he can just take a night off against the Portland Trailblazers at home because the rest of the team's got it. The more, and we've talked about this over and over, for guys like him and Goran, the more it's gonna help the Heat in the playoffs.
Well, you mentioned it. Now that he only had 5 field goals tonight, although he didn't take that many shots, so he's highly efficient. They're now 12-2. The stat's now 12-2, and he makes 5 field goals or less. So, again, I know they don't necessarily want a correlation there, but it is a weird number. Right? It's like the less he has to do or the less he does offensively, the better they are. You focused a lot, kind of on sort of the ball handling aspect, Alex, and how it fits with Jimmy. I thought Spo had an interesting answer to a question I asked at practice yesterday about whether he anticipated that Jimmy would have to ball handle as much as he has. And Eric's response, which was interesting, was kind of like, we're just playing to his strengths. He made it seem like it was really not by necessity. Again, tonight, ball in his hands, beginning of the game, the ball popped. Should it still be in his hands that much?
I mean, I think to a degree, sure, but I'm not really sure exactly what we mean when we talk about that, right? Because his usage still hasn't even been like that high for the season. It's still been hovering around 24, 25, which is higher than it was last year in Philly, obviously, because of that situation. But he hasn't necessarily been dominating the ball in the ways that a lot of other ball-dominant stars do. And so I do think he's not going to have the ball as much in the sense that he's not going to be the playmaker every single time like he was, especially with Warren and Justise out. But since they're back and everybody's healthy, and like you said, they've started to even use Hero in some of those situations as well as a pick-and-roll ball handler, Bam doing facilitation stuff. I think they're going to go back to relying on a very movement and ball movement centered offense where you take that load off of Jimmy because, as we've been talking about, he had so much pressure on him over the past few weeks, especially with the 8-man rotation. So I think it's only natural for him to slide back to that where Jimmy doesn't have that responsibility, that load anymore.
You know what's funny? They also didn't play a lot of zone defense tonight.
No.
Because they had I think a lot of times they go to the zone just because it gives the guys a little bit of a break, but they had the bodies tonight, so why do it?
Right. They had the bodies. I think that's the Justise effect. Well, right. I think a lot of this was they didn't have Justise. And the thing I noticed about it, too, was that Derrick Jones Jr. was just as effective in man as he's been in zone. So if that's the case and you have Justise back, I mean, this is not a team that should have to zone. They really shouldn't. I mean, with their personnel, provided that all of it's healthy. All right, we'll get to more of this in a second. I want to get into the 9-man rotation tonight because I thought that was interesting, the direction that went. All right, we'll get back to the episode here in a second. But just like we've got a sponsored community that is going to help Alf get back in shape, we've got a sponsor that's going to make me look better in clothes, if that's possible. May not be, but in this particular case, I went to the absolute right place to do it, and that's Cervanti Men's Custom Clothier. How frustrating is it to shop for dress clothes? You can never seem to find the right fit, the right color, the right style, or maybe you feel like you just don't know what to wear in a particular situation or how to wear it. You've got a wedding, a special event coming up, or you have to wear professional attire daily. That's why they got to go down and see Blanca at Cervanti Men's Custom Clothier. That's in South Miami. Her private showroom is located right across from Sunset Place on Red Road. I'm heading down there before the road trip to pick up a couple of shirts that I ordered. Cervanti has been designing fine custom-made clothing in South Miami for over 30 years. Your custom-made suits, pants, shirts, and shoes will fit you just the way you like. So schedule a private consultation. It's a really fun experience with Blanca to start looking your best and get the benefit of a female's perspective on men's fashion. Give her a call at 305-310-2085. That's 305-310-2085. 2085. Nothing fits like custom tailored clothes, so stop buying off the rack. All right, I posed a poll question before today's game. Who's going to be the 10th man tonight? There was no 10th man. They went off the bench with Winslow, Dragic, Hero, and Derrick Jones Jr. There was no Silva until late. There was no Olynyk. There was no James Johnson after the way he played the other night, which meant that, as our Christian Hernandez predicted, they were going to play Bam a lot at the 5, which has actually been their most effective lineups this season. Do you guys think, I'll start with Alex here, do you guys think this is an Indiana thing, or do you think this is sustainable, that the Heat are just going to play smaller against a bunch of teams and keep 3 of the bigs on the bench?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about whether it's an Indiana thing because Indiana does play 2 bigs, and it was obvious that they were going to be centered around their 2 bigs, considering they're missing their backcourt. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Spoelstra continued to run with the 9-man rotation. He's obviously figured out who he likes the most. I think he was anticipating Justise return, and because I think he, covers a lot of those spots that were kind of leaking out a little bit over these past few weeks, specifically, like we talked about, the defense, that over the past few weeks, I think it had gone down to like 20th in the league in that time span. So Justise covers up a lot of those holes. And like you said, they've been a pretty plus team, even more plus than usual with Bam at the 5. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I do think Kelly is going to eventually go back into the rotation. But I don't know. That's just me. Because I think if you're adding Justise and James Johnson back into the rotation, you're going to need shooting to offset it. And then one of them is going to be replaced by Kelly eventually. Because I do think, they're going to need the 10th guy so that they have enough energy in the playoffs.
I think it's also interesting how basically Meyers coming back in has taken a lot of those Kelly minutes where Meyers used to not play the second and the fourth quarter. Now he's coming back in spot minutes in those situations. And I guess Is it just that Spoelstra trusts him more defensively? Because I think Meyers' defense has improved, and Kelly, I mean,
Decline.
His defense, and I don't know if it's the knee, I don't know what it is, but Kelly's defense has been rough. Like, he looks on defense the way Justise looked tonight on offense.
Yep. The numbers reflect it, guys. The numbers reflect it. Their numbers with him on the floor defensively have been horrible for a month. I mean, there's no way around it.
I think Christian put out it was like a 189 defensive rating, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they're just letting Kelly get healthy, and they're not going to tell you that he's not healthy. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they had a choice before. But like we said, now it's nice. They have a choice. If Kelly needs some time to get that knee right, they have plenty of options where they don't have to force him out there.
Yeah, one more thought on Meyers. 45% came into the game 45% from three, which is what he shot at last year, which is a career best. It went up a little bit tonight. I mean, he needs a long time to kind of get rid of it. He does not have a Dan Marino release. But once he gets his feet set, it seems like every defender leaves him. And he's shooting it from even further out just to get additional more space and give himself some more time. But he's making them. I still come back to this. I know you feel this way, Alf, and I know people are going to get on you because you talk too much Meyers Leonard. But I want to see him shoot it more. I understand that his percentage would go down a little bit because he wouldn't be in perfect position with his feet set. Again, no defender around him. But if you're shooting 45% from three at this stage on 2 attempts a game, I'd like to see it with 3 attempts, 4 attempts a game. Am I wrong about that?
Well, Ethan, it's not even just about his percentage going down or him making or missing them. It's just the amount of respect that it would engender from the opposing center. That's the whole point of it. Because if right now, I don't even understand why anyone ever leaves him open, and they still do. And there are times that he's open, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe he needs a second and a half to get ready, and he only has a second, and he'll pass it off. He needs to shoot that ball, and I would like to see him shoot 4, 5, 6 a game. And if he drops to 38, 39%, that's fine. I mean, that's still really, really good for a starting center. But what it just does is just open things up even more. Like you would just have to respect the fact that Meyers Leonard's going to shoot it, and if he can make it 40% of the time, that's just going to open things up in the lane even more for Bam.
I think Meyers definitely wants to shoot more too. The problem is a slow release, right? Like, I think he's done a better job at least letting the defense know, I'll shoot it. Like, he'll do his little fake that kind of gets the defense to come out to him even if he's not going to shoot it. But I think because of the slow release, that's kind of hindering him a little bit to get his releases up because he has to have his feet in place, like you guys were saying, and the release is slow. So I would like him to get his attempts up to 4 a game as well, but that kind of gets in the way because he has to kind of be standing in one place.
I also think sometimes, and the whole team does this, and it helps with ball movement. I think sometimes he thinks, I can hit this, but look at Duncan Robinson over there.
Right.
He's even better. So they're
unselfish to a fault. It's not just him.
Yes.
It's Jimmy. I mean, except for Kendrick. Right?
And I've gotten on Kendrick a lot in the past, and people say I don't like Kendrick none. His game is not my favorite type of game. That doesn't mean I think he's a bad player, but he has absolutely gotten better at making the right pass at the right time.
He doesn't stand out anymore. He doesn't have those standout offensive possessions where he's dribbling everything out. Like he never stands out like a sore thumb in that way like he used to in the beginning of the season. Or
like Dion did, right? Like I feel like he was trending towards a Dion type game, and I feel like they've course corrected with him, and that's what I said. The difference between Nunn and Waiters, even though they're only 3 years apart, which is hard to believe, is that Nunn doesn't see himself as a finished product, whereas Dion did. And so I felt like they could get to Kendrick and sort of explain it. I mean, the one guy I don't mind it is, Tyler, towards the end of the game, there were a couple of possessions where, like, Dragic was waiting for the ball back. But it's like, okay, these 3 possessions are Tyler time. Like, you just know Tyler's going to find a way to create enough space to shoot it, and that's what he's going to do. But even he can be very unselfish at times. Even Duncan has been unselfish at times, even though he's, arguably the best shooter on the team. Actually, I don't think it's arguable from distance. I would like to see Meyers shoot it more. I think, Alex, what's interesting about you talking about with the release, is that's kind of a hard thing to correct. Like I'm sure that the Heat have tried, and I'm going to talk to Meyers a little bit about it on this road trip. I'm sure they've tried to quicken it, but it's just like with a quarterback, right? Like if a quarterback Marino had that release, it was God-given, right? I don't know. Have you ever seen a shooter really quicken a release? Like either of you guys? Because I can't think of one.
I don't really expect Meyers to be able to do that, man. I think always like you look at tape of him. Like I only say that because I was just randomly watching the Inside the Heat thing the other day, and they were showing a bunch of tape from him from high school and college. He's always had the slow release. I think it's just the way he is. Like everything about him is slow, just compared to other NBA athletes. And I'm not trying to like. Right. It's deliberate, sure. But I'm not trying to like say it in a bad way. You know, he's just not at that same level of coordination and stuff. And I don't think that's something that he's going to be able to add to his game right now.
Well, Goran doesn't have a quick release. But there are times that Goran with a guy in his face is just going to set up and shoot his shot and not let anybody bother. Huh?
He can create space by himself, though. Meyers can't create space.
I mean, there's times even when Goran's being crowded and he'll take that shot. Duncan Robinson does it as well, but Duncan has a quick release. But Goran doesn't have a quick release. Meyers is 7 feet tall. A lot of times, a guy running at him isn't even going to bother his shot. I still think even with the slow release, he should take the shot. No one's going to block it, right? And I think he just needs to get. It's almost.
But it's not about the block. It's about the shot getting affected, though. I think he has to have it like set up, squared up perfectly. You know.
Of course, I understand that. But what Ethan and I both are saying is that he needs to shoot some of those even when he's a little more uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. He needs to take those shots just to. I think it'll create a lot more space. I mean, right now it's fine, but I think if he could double his shot attempt, just like Ethan's saying, it could create more space.
You said it the last time that we worked together. You said it at the game. You said 2 of 5. That's what he did. If he goes 2 of 5 every time, that's 40%.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Times, perfect. And that's exactly what he did tonight.
Yeah, that's perfect. No, like I said, they've gotten everybody else's attempts up, right? Like, but I don't think that the plan was to have Derek Jones Jr. shooting 9 times from 3 at times and Meyers shooting 2 or 3 times. Like, you want your bet.
You got to talk about somebody else who went 2 of 5 tonight, Derek Jones Jr.
No, he did, and look, maybe that percentage creeps up to 30 because and as long as it gets into the 30s somewhere, you feel better about it because of everything else that he does. But you don't want him being in a position to take that many of those shots, but you do want Meyers. I understand there's a release difference, but I would like to see Meyers take more of them. That's all. I thought his game otherwise was very solid tonight, and like Al said, he's getting the additional stints. He got some stints at the 5 tonight too, with Derek at the 4, and because they're not playing the other bigs. So I think that's going to be a positive factor too. All right, we've got another episode that's going to be coming up soon, so check it out. We're going to talk about Bam's candidacy. That's why we didn't talk about it much in this episode. Bam's candidacy for the All-Star game. All right, we're going to complete the episode here in a second. We've got to bring you the latest on what's gone on between Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren, which broke while we were potting. So we've actually delayed putting this one out because we want to get to this at the very end. Before we do, and you're going to want to stick around for it, got to check out another of our great sponsors, and that's Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. You can find them at onecalllegal.com. That's onecalllegal.com. Make sure you spell it out. They've got someone there 24 hours a day. They specialize in lots of different types of law, but particularly immigration, traffic tickets, also personal injury. They're getting into the sports business as well. So that's Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. They're based right here in North Miami, but they handle cases from all over the state. They're right off of I-95 at 107th Street. So right off of I-95, just west of it. And actually, we work out of their offices as well at times. So we can tell you they're great people, and they will get right to your particular case. That's a Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm, onecalllegal.com. All right, this is not going to be settled in a court of law, Alex. Alpha's gone out to walk the dog, so we're going to handle the rest of this ourselves.
Jimmy Butler, a euphemism?
Well, kind of. Jimmy Butler kind of walked TJ Warren right out of the game today. There were 2 different incidents. We gave short shrift to this during the podcast, and we got paid back for it because as we were completing, all of this stuff broke out. Just to go back through this a little bit, there were 2 incidents of note tonight between Jimmy and TJ Warren. There was a foul that Jimmy didn't particularly like. Then there was a sequence where Jimmy kind of went after TJ a little bit. TJ tried to go after him. Jimmy walked away. Jimmy blew him as a kiss as TJ got thrown out of the game. But then after the game, Alex, you have this queued up. We're going to play this clip. I think we got it, right? We're going to play a clip. This was from Ira Winderman of the Sun Sentinel's question to Jimmy Butler about what exactly happened at the end of the game. After this clip, we'll give you a little context.
What sort of made it so chippy all of a sudden out of just like the one foul?
I mean, to me, I think it's tough for him because I can guard him and he can't guard me. Like, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But like I said, I think you just got to watch your mouth in certain situations. There's some that you just don't say as a man. And, I mean, he got to see me the next time because I feel like what he said was truly disrespectful. And it's all good because we see him again. I ain't scared of nobody. So, you know, he talking about, oh, we're going to fight, this, that. It is what it is to me.
And then what did you notice the middle finger from him, and was the blowing of the kiss?
He's soft. He's not even in my fucking league, like nowhere near me. And if I was their coach, I would never put him on me ever again. He's like, no, put somebody else on me because I'm gonna tear his ass up every time.
All right. Thoughts?
Well, credit to Fox Sports for that clip.
Yes. Yeah.
But that was awesome. I love that energy that Jimmy's bringing. I was surprised when the whole thing kind of erupted because we haven't really seen that side of Jimmy yet this season. We saw it last year with that eruption that he had when he was playing with Philly and everybody had to hold him back. But Jimmy's been very calm in Miami, right? So that was kind of out of nowhere. It didn't even seem like a hard foul to me. But like he says in the clip, it was apparently not about a foul, right? I think it was
something he said.
He said that, it was something he said, and he took a lot of offense to it. So that's obviously not cool if he did say something disrespectful. But that whole energy that he's bringing of like, oh, I'm not scared of nobody. You know, he's not in my league saying all these things. Like, I don't even worry about him. But then at the same time, he's going to Instagram and be like, oh, I'm ready, though. He's literally circling it on his calendar.
Yeah, so let's get to that. So then this Instagram post posted, this is at 200,000 likes since I just checked it out. Jimmy Butler has gone to the Miami Heat schedule, and he's found a 3-game subset of games. One is in Chicago on March 18th. Another is against Oklahoma City on March 23rd. But the one that he has circled in red ink here, somewhat red ink, is Friday, March 21st, back at Bankers Life Fieldhouse against Indiana. And then we have some people on Twitter who won't at people, who will hide behind, fake names and all the rest of this. Jimmy Butler does not do that. Jimmy Butler added T_Warren1. So it went right to TJ Warren's Instagram and said, "Don't be mad you can't guard me. We will see what you about in March." You mentioned it. LeBron James took a lot of shit while he was down here in Miami, but never went back at anybody. He told me many times he wanted to, but he didn't. Okay, all the guys that took shots at him, he would take like sort of shots in the locker room at them, like pointing out the fact that Reggie Evans had no points and no rebounds after saying that the Heat's first championship with LeBron should have had an asterisk against it. He did things like that, but not like Jimmy. And this is one of the reasons, Alex, I said before the season that Jimmy is the most Miami star that the Heat have ever had. Like, more so than LeBron, more so even than Dwayne, who had to grow into it.
You got to make sure UD doesn't hear this.
No, well, but UD was not – okay, not a star, okay? He's the most Miami player they've ever had. And my love for UD, so don't start shit there. He's just out of the wrong size T-shirt. But the most Miami star they've ever had. Like, even like Zoe and Dwayne had to kind of grow into that a little bit. He is the most Miami star that the Heat have ever had. He just is. He embodies the whole attitude down here of like, I just don't give a bleep about what you think of me, which is very Miami. That's the whole culture down here, in terms of what this area is about. And Jimmy's embodied from the beginning. I agree with you that he has not really gone back at guys this year. I feel like he's been focused on trying to prove he's this incredible teammate, and so he's sort of not really directed things at other people. But sometimes he can't help himself. He can't help himself from cursing. We know that. And he can't help himself from taking an occasional shot at somebody or getting involved. He got pulled into that whole thing between Towns and Embiid earlier this season, but this is the first time that he's really gone back and I like it.
And it's awesome because it's like he's been doing this stuff where he adds players, but in a completely different manner, right? He's done it with his teammates where he's doing a lot of playful stuff. He's kind of teasing them, But this, where he's like, oh yeah, I'm not just about the games. Like I will at this guy who, you know, we almost got into a fight. Like Jimmy, you could literally see him in the replay, like hesitating to throw that punch. Like he was balling up his fist. Like he was heated there for real. This is not a joke. And
there are some guys in the NBA.
There's a variety of ways that you can use Instagram in 2020.
Oh, no doubt. But here's the other thing about it. He's not Kevin Garnett fake tough guy. Right, like Kevin Garnett, who would start shit with like every European player that he could find. Look it up. Every time that Kevin Garnett started
smaller players too.
It was always a small white dude. Let's just be honest, okay? Like, I mean, look at Kevin Garnett's history.
You're lucky you were never on the floor with him.
Right. I mean, right, exactly. Right. Like it always was, and then he would always back down. This guy is the whole. What was that Udonis called? What was he called? Paul Pierce, a studio gangster? Was it, he called Paul Pierce? Right? It was this, right. Like, but that's what the Boston Celtics embodied. Like, that's not Jimmy Butler. Like, Jimmy Butler wanted to go tonight. Like, the only time he restrained himself was walking towards the other side of the court, but then blowing the kiss afterwards, which just sets the whole thing up.
He completely won the chess game, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Like
he got him kicked out. They needed a scorer tonight. And TJ Warren's been scoring lately. So whether Jimmy Butler respects him as a player or not, he's a player that the Pacers needed tonight.
They won the chess game not only in that way because he's averaging like 18 a game, I believe, but also in the fact that, you know, he didn't have to do that. When I'm talking about TJ Warren here, like after the whole thing happened, he already got in the first tech. Then they ended up look, if you've grown up playing basketball at the park, you knew what was going to happen after that whole thing flared up the first time, and then they were guarding each other on the next possession. You knew what was going to happen. It was going to flare up again. Like, who knows exactly what was going to come out of it, but I was watching that the entire time. I wasn't even looking at the ball. I was not even looking at the ball.
But Alex,
I know that energy. I know that tension.
Jimmy wanted it to happen.
Exactly, and that was going to be my point.
Wanted it to happen.
That was going to be my point. He completely baited him into doing something. Although Jimmy was definitely angry. I'm not saying like Jimmy wasn't like he was angry, but at the same time he baited him. He got him out of there. Like he completely got him to follow him and like flick him off and like just do all this extra stuff that he didn't need to do. Like it's a veteran move by Jimmy to bait him and then just blow him the kisses and make him look stupid on social media and on TV.
And the difference between Jimmy and, say, a Lance Stevenson type instigator is Jimmy can back it up with his play. I mean, what Jimmy is saying about TJ Warren is true. It's easier for Jimmy Butler to guard TJ Warren than it is for TJ Warren to guard Jimmy Butler. It's just simple. Like, and this is the other thing that cracks me up about Jimmy, and we've talked about this on previous episodes, is Jimmy goes back and forth between declaring himself just another player or an effing superstar. Like, it depends on the day, right? Like some days he'll tell you he's not that good. His answer to my question in training camp where he's, you know, he doesn't see himself as a star. And then again, the answer in the locker room, you know, about a month ago where he said, oh, Bam's the star, right? Like on this team. But then when push comes to shove and someone actually say pushes him, he tells you how good he is, right? So it's a little bit of both. It's this game that Jimmy kind of plays, and he's played it everywhere he's been. Anyway, we wanted to touch on it. You're going to see all this stuff. It's blowing up on social media everywhere. So we stopped the editing just to get this to you. We'll get another episode on Bam here shortly. But again, check out all our sponsors, ecpaclaims.com. You got 9 months to file an IRMA claim. So if you need to do that, go there. Please support our sponsors because our sponsors are what's keeping us going here. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Five on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.